Welcome to the Sip and Scale podcast, where we talk about everything business, entrepreneurship, and startups. My name is Blendi Muriqi. I'm the CEO and founder of Delegate.co. Each week, you'll join us as we talk with industry experts and business owners, sharing actionable insights to drive your business forward. So grab your favorite beverage and let's sip our way to success. We're heading into the holidays, and today I'm sitting down with two really amazing people. They are one of the reasons that we do what we do every single day here at Delegate. I'd like to welcome my Chief Operating Officer, Jan Vega-Ramos, and our Recruitment Manager, Vincent Dan Mijares. So, to give you guys an overview, these two people, they're the heartbeat of our organization. They're the ones that have really created the strong systems within Delegate that allow us to recruit the top talent we do every single day. They are based in the Philippines, and they're here today to talk a little bit about how they do what they do, their processes. This way, you guys have a little bit of insight into how we run as a company. We're going to share some stories. We're going to talk about leadership, growth, and the people that make it all work. So let's
go.
First, we're approaching Thanksgiving. I want to kind of put this in a holiday tone. What are you guys most thankful for right now, personally and professionally in your lives? And we'll start off with Jan.
Oh, okay. Well, personally, I'm really grateful for being safe. I mean,
That's true.
being in the Philippines has just been crazy for the past 6 weeks. So it's really been a big blessing that despite all of those thunderstorms that had gone in or recently, we had two in the past week. We're still here. We're able to record this podcast. We're able to talk to you. We're able to work. And I'm really, really grateful that we've gotten through that. But
Uh,
knowing that everybody's safe and our team, like the delegate team, they're doing great. They're okay. All the damages that can just be fixed, but us being here with our families, that's really something to be grateful for. I mean, had we done this podcast at a different time, I would be talking about something like for Christmas or something that I've been looking forward to. But right now, this is what's really important for me. And professionally, I'm just so thankful to have been a part of Delegate for the past year and a half. And during those times, I've built such a strong relationship with our leadership team. And that alignment has really helped us focus on what truly matters and to move forward with a shared sense of purpose. I mean, that's the most important thing, that all of you are working towards the same sense of purpose. And I'm so happy that we have that in Delegate at the moment.
I love it. And I love that everyone is safe and sound. Like, one of the things you worry about when you guys have gone through so many natural calamities in the last month. It's insane. Earthquake, typhoon, volcano eruption. It's like you can't catch a break. Meanwhile, everybody's coming to work every day,
Yep.
under circumstances. And that's a testament to the work ethic that you guys have. It's a testament to just how hardworking Filipinos are.
that's true.
Mhm.
So super thankful that you're all safe. Vinny, what about you? We're about to
Me?
have Thanksgiving. Tell me, what are you thankful for?
Well, I'm gonna say the same thing as Jan. Thankful for being safe despite everything that has happened. And especially like today, like I told you earlier, I almost burned down my house literally. So thankful for being safe. On the professional side, same as Jan, I'm happy to be just really working at Delegate. It's like I think that when I started here, it really gave me the opportunity to really do what my purpose is. So I'm really happy. On the recruitment side, I'm really happy that we closed most of our hiring requests and then before like all the new ones came in last week and this week. So very thankful for that.
There you go.
Just to add, Blendy, I was talking about like a sense of purpose earlier. And I don't know if you remember, but when Vincent applied here, a lot of applicants applied during his time. But I think one of the things that stood out was that Vincent mentioned that the reason for his application is that he wanted to find something that could give him a sense of purpose. He feels like
Yeah.
this could be it. And I'm a living testament to how he has fulfilled that purpose. I mean, he's been in and out, a lot of things has
Oh.
happened, and we're still, we're still here. And to be fair, like, I'm super proud of the delegate team because we've been in contact with almost everyone because of everything that's been happening,
Yeah.
and we've been offering the support that whatever they need. Their safety is our top
Mm-mm.
priority. But when we're reaching out to people, I'm amazed by how they're all here.
Yeah.
They were evacuated, but they still want to come in despite us telling them that you can skip work, your safety is the priority. But they still feel like if they can, they will. I think this is what people are talking about when they mention resilience in the Filipino team.
Mm-mm.
But sometimes I'm just grateful that the team that we have and the clients that we have, we don't have to push that resilience to the end. You know,
No.
Yeah.
if you need to step back, you can. And I think that's what's most important. And I think that's also what's pushing our assistants and our team to also come to work and show up every day because they're not getting pushed
Mm-mm.
No.
to the
No.
limits.
We're
So,
giving. I mean, obviously, when you have a typhoon that's going on, like the last thing you want to do is push the people that really run
Mm.
company on a daily basis. Thankfully, we also have all of our clients are just awesome, and they understand the circumstances too. But
Mm.
even with that, the impact hasn't really been felt because everybody has either A, come to work, or B, we've made arrangements for them to be able to come to work.
in
So,
advance, yep.
yeah.
Mm.
And our clients also, because we've been doing touch bases with them throughout this timeline. And we were so happy to know that most of them have already subscribed to the Filipino news pages and they're well aware of what's happening. So they've all been so compassionate and just empathetic of whatever has been happening. And it's just so nice to hear that.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. So, like, to shift tones, we're here today to talk about top tier virtual assistants, talk about the background of recruiting the VAs. I want this specific podcast to give people a landscape of
Mm.
recruitment in the Philippines. The first question I want to ask you, Vinny,
Mm.
is what makes the Philippines such a strong hub for finding virtual assistants?
Well, there are a couple of things that makes the Philippines like a really strong place to hire people. There are a lot of like qualities for a virtual assistant here in the Philippines that they can hire a variety of. One of the things that I think is very important for a virtual assistant is that number one, they have diverse skill sets. Here in the Philippines, you know, VAs do not just do one thing. Like say for example, short-term rental virtual assistant, they don't just do guest communications. They do a lot of multiple things. Property management, if you say that, they have skill sets for it. So listing optimization, they can create new listings, social media management. So that's number one for the VAs in the Philippines.
They have many skills in one
Yeah,
place.
they don't just
They,
focus on one thing, yeah, and one niche. The other thing is that Philippines has the, largest number of English speaking people, proficiently speaking in English in Asia. For a lot of countries, the Philippines would really make sense to hire VAs here because of that. English is our second language, has always been our second language, and we were taught to speak English since we were young. Going to school at a very young age, we were already taught to speak English. So a lot of people are very proficient in speaking the language. So that's another thing why the Philippines has been like a top tier country for VAs. And I think that this is also very important for a lot of foreigners hiring VAs is the cost efficiency without affecting quality of work. The Philippines has one of the, I won't say cheaper, but I would say it's cost efficient. You can never find someone with the level of skill sets, understanding of the job that would cost only half of how much you would pay in other countries.
Yeah.
So,
Value.
those are the three main things. Yeah, I think that makes the Philippines. Also, in terms of flexibility in the time zone, since Philippines has a big industry of BPOs, Filipinos
For
have evolved in terms of like their time zone working 24/7.
BPO, what does BPO stand for?
Business process outsourcing, like call centers. Most US companies, big companies have call centers, and the Philippines has been one of the top hubs for call centers. And because of that, Filipinos, the workforce here, have evolved into being flexible in terms of working in any time zones. So
Yeah.
you can
That's
say that if you
true.
have to work like at 3 in the morning, Filipinos would say, yes, I can work at 3 in the morning.
Blendy can attest to that. He messages me at whatever time and I'm there. But
Yeah.
so our sleeping patterns have adjusted to whatever time zone there is. And like Vinny said, like the Philippines is a powerhouse for virtual talent because the Philippines is like a melting pot of diverse
Mm-mm.
industry
That's
experience
true.
because
Mm-mm.
we've been like in the BPO industry, we were one of the first few countries that they've outsourced to. So we've adjusted to all kinds of roles, mainly customer support. But now, with how the world is opening up to remote talent, I'm very happy to see that, these people with such potential who couldn't find the job that they really are meant for here in the
Mm.
Philippines could easily tap into that open network and unlimited hiring of jobs
Mm-mm.
elsewhere. So yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with Vinny. And don't
Yeah.
forget, well, the Filipino work ethic, that's another
Mm-mm.
thing that really makes the Philippines like a powerhouse for virtual talent.
That's true. I would also like to point out, like from what you said, Jan, having diverse skill set basically speaks about Filipinos being adaptable. So, like whatever skill set, whatever tasks, whatever tools their clients would tell them to learn to do, these hires are very adaptable. They can learn these tools that they would give their VAs. That's just like a few reasons that I can think of why you should hire people here in the Philippines.
I think Blendy, this would be such a big help because it's also an eye opener. Because I don't know if you remember, but we've had a few clients come in and they were saying that they're like thinking twice about hiring a Filipino, for example, because of the time zone difference. And every
Mm,
time we tell them, because some of them think that the Filipinos work within their time zone, and then when we tell them that no, we work with whatever time zone.
24/7.
They're like, oh, so if that's the case, hook me up with some
Yeah.
candidates
Well,
from the
I
Philippines.
always I always give the response because I get that question all of the time. And the response that I give is the work culture has adapted to
Mhm,
Western time zones because we work with the biggest companies. When I say Filipinos work with the biggest companies in the world. So,
mhm,
and in the West, I should say more specifically, they're working with JP Morgan Chase, they're working with Amex, they're working with companies like Airbnb. And
mm,
so
Mm-hmm.
when you look at, work culture, your version of happy hour starts at 8 a.m. when your shift, ends at whatever BPO call center you're
It's
working.
it's always five somewhere, so
Yeah,
mhm.
yeah.
Oh, that's true.
whatever works.
So it's very normal for folks. And I think the bottom line is time zone doesn't really affect the output of talent or performance. And,
Mhm,
you're
Mm-hmm.
getting good value out of it for the money. So, what are some things that people, business owners, don't realize about hiring VAs in the Philippines? They may have heard on social media, hire a Filipino VA, it's cost effective, you get a lot of value for the time that they're investing in your business. But tell me, like, one or two things that people don't realize about hiring overseas Filipinos?
I'll take that. One
Oh, okay.
thing many business owners might not realize is that Filipinos, while incredibly hardworking, they often struggle to say when they're overwhelmed. You
Mm,
get what I mean? So instead of saying, like, I need a break, or this deadline is too steep, they'll say, like, yes, I can do that. Yes, I'll figure
mm-mm.
it out. Even if the workload is super heavy or the
Too much
deadline is
for
super
them.
tight. Yeah. But that's because in the Filipino culture, offering like a longer timeline or asking for more time or saying that you need a break or you need to go on leave, some Filipinos think it's unprofessional or maybe
Mm-mm.
you're letting them down. So what they don't realize is because this comes from wanting to please or not wanting to disappoint, or they're scared that, it might reflect poorly on them. So while it's well intentioned, it can lead to burnout or misaligned expectations, or it could also sometimes deliver like a lower quality than expected. So I think this is something that's worthy to be discussed and is very helpful because I think clients can really help by encouraging open communication. You know,
Mm-mm.
letting assistants know it's okay to speak up. Success is always going to be a two-way street. I will never get tired of saying that. Success in your partnership with your assistant, it will always be a two-way street. It
Mm-mm.
just shouldn't come from either the client or the assistant. It's a two-way street and it's built on
Mm-mm.
empathy and understanding on both sides through communication.
Yeah.
Right.
So, these assistants, I hear it all the time. Like most of our coaching sessions with some of the assistants is that I see them working like 16 hours a day, and some of them aren't even punching that
Paid.
as
Mm-mm.
paid time. They're going to work secretly in secret and just trying to finish this project, just trying to meet that expectation, which is good. But doing that on lengthy periods and continuously, it's going to lead to a
Mm-mm.
burnout.
Burnout.
And what I always tell my assistants is it's really hard to recover from a burnout, especially if you get burnt out from doing something that you love. That's very unfortunate.
Mm-mm.
So it's just that in the Filipino culture, like growing up, when your mom tells you to do this or your grandmother tells you to finish this, it's always yes,
Yeah. No
we'll
excuses.
do it. So I think that's one thing that they have to be familiar with in the
Mm-mm.
Filipino culture because I mean, you'll hear stories about Filipino kids just crying but studying.
Mm-mm.
Uh,
I'll
I think,
cry, but I'll study.
yeah, I think just to add to that, it also comes from the fact that Filipinos are very responsive. Responsive not in terms of communication, but responsive meaning in terms of their work ethics. The way Filipinos work are really dependent on like the mood, the environment, the behavior in
That's true.
at work. Like so whatever like Jan mentioned, success is a two-way street. What you give to Filipinos, that's what they reciprocate. And Filipinos are very loyal. As long as you give them the environment for them to be able to thrive, Filipinos will stay with you until the ends of time. They're there for the long haul. That's one thing that you have to understand. It just really depends on like what environment you put them in. And that's how
Yeah,
responsive they are.
that's
I've
true.
noticed
That's true. They feed on acknowledgement. Like
Mm-mm,
they like hearing that they did it correctly, or this is
mm-mm.
good, or this is nice. I mean, sometimes it's just what they need, you
Yeah.
know.
I can really attest to that. I know personally speaking, a lot of VAs that I've worked with in the past, if you do not from the get-go say, listen, we are an operation built on communication, whenever there's something going on, speak up to me. It's okay. That's
Mm,
True.
something that as a business owner you have to be upfront with, and you have to constantly reiterate, because that communication needs to be in there for the relationship to be strong. The other thing is, you're talking about like environment, the a work environment. We try and make it as easy as possible for these VAs to do the job they're doing. I've had situations where VAs were like, I'm not feeling well, There's something maybe going on in the family. And I want to give them that space too, to say, listen, like, I want you to perform at your best. If you're forcing yourself to come to work because you're like dying of a fever, that's not you working at your best.
Yeah.
That's true.
And those are like the thing is, I think a lot of other companies that they may hire freelancers, they don't understand this. They just think
Mm-hmm.
that like they have this person overseas and it doesn't matter. They don't have their own life. And what I've tried to do at Delegate is basically build an infrastructure, a human resources infrastructure for these VAs. So they have their basic needs, they have these various benefits, and they have an environment where they can thrive. That makes it a lot easier for us to employ them, but it also makes it a lot easier for the clients to get the most value out of them.
Mm-mm.
That's true. And us being in the middle, because, this is not knowledge that's available to anyone. This is something that you have to discuss to them and share to them, and something that they must have to read elsewhere. That either Filipinos, they just have this fear of disappointing people. So they will overpromise and put too much on their plate, and it goes the other way around. Or that Filipinos really thrive on communication and acknowledgement. So it's not something that's easily available to the clients. But with us being in the middle for a managed service, at least we're able to coach both
Yeah.
both ends, because
Mm-mm.
some of these assistants might also feel like they're being ignored or they're not appreciated because their client is super direct to the point and very
Mm-mm.
nonchalant, as the Gen Zs would fondly use right now,
Nonchalant.
being a millennial. But, at least we're there to explain to both
Yeah.
sides. It makes them more aware of their
I like the
partnership.
word I like the word liaison. We're the liaison.
Yeah,
Ah,
really
Between-
is. Uh-huh.
liaise.
Let's go a little bit into the processes that we have in place. We want to give an idea of how we actually hire. When we say we hire the top 1% of talent overseas in the Philippines, what does that look like? So maybe Vinny, maybe you can speak a little bit to our process and how we find and recruit VAs for each client that we look for.
Yeah. Sure, definitely. I'll try to simplify it as much as I can, but I know it's hiring someone is a really long process and it takes a lot of time and effort, but there are a couple of steps before you can really hire someone. And I want to start by saying that from identifying the need to hiring, the percentage of hire there is usually just 10%. Basically, it means that if you want to hire one, you have to go through 100 people before you can hire that right person. So imagine if you want to hire five, then you have to go through 500 people. That's why it's important people understand, like when they start hiring, they have to understand what they have to do, what they have to go through. Because hiring
Yeah.
is not just, receiving a resume and then saying, okay, I'm going to hire you. It's more than that if you want to hire the right person. So the first thing in our process, especially like for delegates, number one is the role intake, where we try to understand the needs of the role, the goal, the purpose of the role, so tasks, requirements, all those things. So we try to understand that. Once we have the understanding, then we go to, sourcing for candidates. And there are steps when we source for candidates. The first thing that we have to do is to create a pipeline. To simplify it, to create a job posting so that you can reach the people that you need to reach. So you have to identify the right channels where you need to hire these people. For example, like social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok is really big now, especially like for, the new generation where you can hire people. Job boards like Indeed, JobStreet, these job boards where you can hire people. Online jobs PH as well is very big in the Philippines for freelancers. You post these things, but you don't just post, because based on your role intake, you have to identify, like in your job post, what are the needs, the things that you do, the things that they'll be doing there. Because when you post a role, the job title attracts your candidates. So you have to make sure that you put the right job title there. And because sometimes if you put the wrong job title, number one, you get the wrong people. And then sometimes you don't attract people, so you don't get candidates. So that's very important. So you create a pipeline, job posting, and then once you have, candidates coming in, the next step would be your screening process, which involves qualifying the candidates or the leads that you've gathered. So when you qualify, you can either automate your job post so that you can qualify. You can either automate qualifying. So like when you job post your jobs, you put their qualifying filters like questions so that it will automatically filter out the candidates that are qualified and not qualified. Or if you do not have that capacity, then you do paper screening. Paper screening takes a lot of time. You have to
I
go
mean,
through
you're
each
going
an
through
individual. Yeah,
if
And
you're going through
yeah,
resume.
dozens of
if
applications.
Yeah.
yeah, and if candidates are listening to this podcast, I think this is the right time to make sure that your resumes are fully optimized, especially that
Yes, that's
more
true.
and more recruitment teams are moving towards the automated processes. So it
Mm-mm.
really doesn't matter what you've done, what your experience is, if your resume is not optimized. Because
Yes.
I feel like, automating your process it's really a double-edged sword.
Mm-mm.
While you may get a faster process out of it, you're also
Filtering out those
in,
that are not
yeah,
qualified.
you're in constant fear of having that automation actually miss
Mm-mm.
out on these people because most automations play on keywords.
Mm-mm.
Now, what most AI tools don't understand or realize yet is that per industry or per company or per region that you've worked in, there would be different terminologies for the same thing
That's
that you
true.
do.
Mm-mm.
So
That's so true.
I
Wow.
mean, Vinny and I, we've both been in the recruitment industry for more than a decade now.
A very long time.
More than a decade. Well, I started working when I was 6, so I'm just 16.
I started when I was 10 because I'm older than you.
Sometimes I really don't want to say that I have that much experience because it's actually gonna show the age, but oh well. We've been in the recruitment industry for more than a decade now, and we've seen the evolution from the very basic of recruitment, from the manual paper screening to
Yeah.
having these tools and now
Oh my
having
God, I
these
remember those days.
I know. Now having these automated tools, we've also seen the pros and cons of these innovations and changes and improvements because we've been there. We've tried doing this automation and we saw that there were a
Mm-mm.
lot of very, very qualified candidates who got turned down at the very first step of recruitment.
Mm-mm.
Because Vinny mentioned earlier that this is a very long process. So
Mm-mm.
and the top 1%, some clients just imagine that okay, they got the top 1% of the Philippines, like really the smartest of the
Mm-mm.
entire country, but it's really not. It talks about the process that you have to go through and you being able to juice out the 1% amongst those qualified candidates that you've gotten. So yeah,
Mm-mm.
just to piggyback there, because I'm happy that right now we still did not lose the human touch. We did not
Mm-mm.
remove that from our process. And that is why we're confident to say that, while we're screening these people, we still see the others that would have been weeded out had we just
Mm-mm.
gone automated all throughout.
Automated. Mm-mm. Yeah,
I'm
that's
sure
true.
a lot of large companies now they literally automate everything to a point where they've removed humans out of the loop up to the
Mm.
very
Hmm.
final interview, or even maybe even with final interviews, they've removed humans out of the loop. And I
Mm-mm.
think it's a disservice to potential candidates that would have been hired otherwise.
Mm-mm.
Yep.
Yeah.
And while these companies evolve, now is the best time for these candidates to also evolve. Everything is about optimization, like Airbnb, you have to optimize.
That's nice.
Job posting, you have to optimize.
Resumes.
Resumes, you have to optimize because right now the gameplay is on the keywords.
Mm-mm.
Right.
So that's
Yeah.
that's what they have to focus on at this point.
Mm-mm. Yeah, that's
That's
true. Thank you, Jan. So there's that part, the qualifying, the paper screening part. And then another, which is a part of our process, and some companies do not do this, is the aptitude test. Now, This is also like a double-edged sword for aptitude tests. Now, when we say aptitude test or basically a recruitment test, if you are hiring, what you have to understand is you have to make sure that the test that you are providing is checking or identifying the skill sets that you need. You don't just throw a bunch of tests there without understanding that these tests do not check for competencies that you need for the job, because a lot of companies just throws a bunch of assessments that do not make any sense. It could be a simple test to just identify basic skill set that you need for an assistant, for example, like attention to detail. That's very important. Language skills can also be part of it, but you have to understand as well that your aptitude test can only assess certain levels of language skills. It does not really identify whether this person really has good communication skills, which will be done in the next step. Situational judgment. A personality test can also be one that you can provide if you're looking for cultural fit, although it's best that you also check that on the next step of the process. But again, if you're not really identifying what skill sets you need and then just throwing in a bunch of assessment, you're not getting the right candidates. So,
Yeah.
mm-mm,
And I think this is where it's very important. This is where it will show you if your team, your recruitment team, actually has recruitment experience.
yes,
Because part of the job of a recruiter or a recruitment team is to actually identify the core competencies that come with the
mm-mm,
role.
Right.
Many recruiters would just Google an aptitude test or a core competency test, but it doesn't really apply to the role that you're looking for.
mm-mm,
And in terms of communication skills, let's say, for example, there are a lot of roles that communication skills talk of a very wide spectrum of
yeah,
competencies in the language aptitude also. So there may be comprehension, there's accent, there's linguistics, there's a lot of things. There's tenses, pronunciation. Which part of the communication skills spectrum are you actually talking about? Which part of the range are you actually talking about when you say,
What
I want
generation?
someone with,
What
yeah,
mm,
I
generation?
want someone I want someone with good communication skills. And at what aspect? Like, what is their role? What do they actually need to speak to your customers? Or do you just want to make sure that both of you would understand each other?
understand each other.
Because we have a lot of candidates that have exceptional skills in communication in terms of being able to communicate and comprehend. But in terms of, let's say, it's a sales role, then there's going to be an aspect of accent. So it's very important that we drill down to the
Mm-mm,
tiniest detail, and it's a collaborative effort with our CSM team.
mm-mm,
That's why we do this process wherein at the first part we talk to the client. Our CSM team would talk to the client and do a deep dive on what they actually need
mm-mm,
and why they need those. It's not just a take and take and take process wherein we take all your information and just log it down as that, because we have to drill down, like, why do you need this, why do you need this, and then
mm-mm.
those sets of information would be then forwarded to Vinny,
Yeah.
and Vinny will be working around that. So
That's why it's very important to have the role intake at the beginning of the recruitment so
mhm,
that we understand the needs. And sometimes, like, if you're the one hiring, if you're looking for a role, do not skip that step because it's important that you understand what you need, you understand the criteria, requirements, so that you can get the right person. That's very important.
true.
And sometimes I've noticed that the prospective client or the client that we do have may not even know what they need
Yep.
themselves.
Yes, that's true as well. That's why it's
and
important that the CS understands how to ask
and
those important
really
questions.
maneuvers that conversation, because there are
Yeah.
also times that our clients, some processes would require the clients to do the final interview, because some clients would say, I'd like to do the final interview, or I'd like to be able to interview them. And sometimes they really haven't interviewed anyone, or their interview is more like just a conversation. And
Mm-mm.
because they haven't had experience, haven't gone through the experience of hiring someone, or this is their first time interviewing someone, it also doesn't work well for them.
Mm-mm.
It doesn't work as in how it's intended to be, which is why I'm super happy that our CSMs actually know when to suggest otherwise. Like, hey,
Mm-mm.
I can do this for you. I can do the interview for you, and I'll give you the recordings. Do you
Mm-mm.
have
Right.
any questions that you would want me to ask them? And the others, I'll be helping you out. I'll be making these questions to align to the role that you're actually
Mm-mm.
looking for. And I think I love that for us. I
Yeah.
mean, yay us.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's one important thing as well. That like one step that I mean, we've worked with other companies as well, and that's a step that some CSMs do not take really. And I think that makes us very unique because our CSM is also involved in terms of like making sure that our clients get the right people, knowing that these clients are not equipped or skilled in terms of like filtering, identifying, qualifying candidates or assistants.
The biggest reasons next to saving time is there's a knowledge gap. I can speak as a
Mm-mm.
CEO. I'm not a human resources expert and I'm not a recruitment expert. So I like to think that I have the overarching knowledge of the process. But at the end of the day, like I trust our CSM team to really get into the nitty gritty of a
Mm-mm.
position to guide me in hiring someone.
Mm-mm.
And actually, like through that, through having our CSM team that they're the liaison between the client and the VA, I've also
Mm-mm.
learned like, a lot of things to ask and what to ask during initial interviews and not in initial interviews for the VA,
Discovery calls.
the discovery calls with the
Mm-mm.
client. One of the things that I really want to focus on, especially with a client that may have had bad experiences in the past with
Mm-mm.
hiring overseas. Maybe they went through a few VAs. I like to like reverse the questions and ask, what do you not want out of
Mm-mm.
a VA? Because oftentimes that also helps identify themes within the management of the client, like the management style of the client, so we can better match them with someone that matches their management style, if that makes sense.
Mm-mm. Yeah. And just to continue with the process after all those qualifying, it's the interview process, which is the next step that I was talking about, which is also very important. And when you're doing interviews, you have to make sure that you create a rubric based on what you need. And I firmly believe that interviews should focus mostly on number one, behavior, because we hire based on behavior and not skills, because skills can be learned. Although if the role is very technical, of course you interview for skills, because like for example, like an IT role, of course you interview skills because you need to identify whether they can do like software engineering or whatnot. But other roles, for example, the very first thing you have to do is to you know interview for behavior. And that's, I think, one thing that sets apart as well, because our focus is mostly on behavior really. That's a big chunk of our interviews, to check whether this person is the right fit. And I'm not saying that you can, filter 100% like people with behavior issues, but it can help you at least identify those red flags and point out whether this person has the right mindset as the client, whatnot. So that's why it's important that you create this rubric, you prepare this rubric. What are these behavior qualifiers that would make this assistant the best assistant for this client or for me if I'm the one hiring? So behavior is one when you interview. So make sure that you focus on that, you check on that, because you can always hire skilled people, but if they don't have the right behavior, the right mindset, they will not stay with you.
I think
These people will not stay.
I
So
think that's the easiest way to weed out the B players, Bendy, because we always know that there will always be A players, B players, and C players. And these, if you're interviewing for skills first, or if you have a technical role, or if you're doing a technical assessment, for example, then you're gonna be left with A and B players, which
mm-mm,
means they're qualified. They have the skill set, they have the
Yeah.
experience. But for you to be able to weed out the B players and be left with the A players, then you do that. But if you're, let's say, for example, hiring for a role that can be taught or can be trained, and you're open to hiring people with no experience, then that weeds out the B players and leaves you with the A and the C. But we
Mm.
all know that in a company or in a workforce, the hardest level of players to have would be the B players. The people who are just doing, but not
Yeah,
ever going to go up. And you're not going to have a problem with them because they're hitting their KPIs. So those are the hardest players to deal with.
Mm.
my
Yeah,
uh,
that's
I
true.
just saw an example of this from a friend of mine that has his own company. It's growing very rapidly, and he was talking to me over dinner. He has this one employee that she has these like spurts of greatness and then like mediocrity, and she would be like considered a B player, but because she has moments where she's good and then moments where she's not so good, she's in this limbo situation, and the manager doesn't know what to do because he's not getting the most out of her. He understands that she's smart and talented and whatnot, but because of her behavior, she's inconsistent.
Mm.
And kind of going to talking about our company, I think that we've had a lot of great hires that they started out from the beginning with very little skills, and
Mm.
like you would consider them C-level players on the skill side, but on the behavior side they were A level.
And
And
now they've
all
grown.
they've
Mm.
grown. All they needed was those skills, and by fostering that, we've been able to like build a lot of team
Mm.
members that in any other situation, another hire or recruiter may have been like, this person lacks the skills, we're not going to hire them. And I would
Mm.
much rather have someone that has the behavioral assets and doesn't have the skills, because I know we can support them and make them A
Yeah.
players.
Yep, that's how you get the star players. And at least
Mm.
I've managed teams. That story that you told, at least there were spurts of greatness. So it's just a matter of identifying like what's happening. It could be a personal problem, it could be a whatever, but it's something that can be identified. But I've worked with team members wherein they're just there to do what they're asked to do, especially for these routine roles wherein I came in, I did what I was asked to do, I'm clocking out.
Mm.
And you can't basic technically in the HR world and in our code of conduct or in our KPIs, they're hitting it.
Mm.
They're
There's nothing that you
they're
can do about it.
there's nothing you can do about it. That's why it's also important as a company wherein you do these target-based KPIs, but you also do these behavioral
Mm.
KPIs, to see if they're still there, if the spark is still there, because it could be they're not happy at what they're doing. And for
Yeah,
me, as cliche as it sounds, it's very, very important that you like what you're doing and you see your purpose. Going back to Vinny's opening statement, that it's still going to be purpose driven. And that's what makes star players.
Mm. Yeah,
So we're still not
that's
done with the process. We're
no, we're
down
not yet
to
done.
so
We're almost done. The simpler
we
part.
we started with 100% and then we did the paper screening, which would leave us around
We're now at
70%.
yeah, we're now at interviews, which would probably lower us down to 40 or 30%.
Mm-hmm.
As I was saying, behavior is very important. So make sure that, you check on that. Of course, skills and then language skills. If you're hiring outside of your country, if you're hiring VAs from the Philippines, then you check language skills. But those are, again, not above behavior. But these are the three things that, of course, we focus on. After interviews, once you're done with that, the next part is the client pairing. This is where we were talking about CSM earlier. The client pairing is where we basically ask all the shortlisted candidates to meet with the clients or the CSM to do another round of interview. And this is very important as well to check whether, these shortlisted candidates are the right candidates for the client so that they also get a, a feel of whether
Vibe
these are the
check.
right people. Yeah, the vibe check. Although more than that, they have to identify because as a recruiter, I only know things that were
Fed.
reported or that were fed to me. But there might be other things that clients want that were not part of the role intake. So it's very
Mhm.
important that we have the client pairing so that they can also ask these questions when they meet the shortlisted assistants or the CSM can ask these questions for the clients. And once you're done with that, that should leave you with around probably 30-20% of the candidates, and then after would be the onboarding and training, which would cut a lot of people. So onboarding and training is very important as well, because number one, we hire skills, right? You hire behavior, and then you also ask for skill sets, but it's important that you train. Most assistants that you hire that have experiences can learn these things, but do not expect them to be able to do that on day one.
Or don't expect that their learned process would align to
With align with,
whatever
yes,
process you want.
that's
Yeah.
true.
I
So it's
mean,
important that you
funny,
spend time to train.
ridiculous as it may sound, I've encountered these kinds of problems in the past wherein a client would ask for an experienced assistant in this field, for example, or doing this role. And then upon day three, let's say, for example, they're not happy because apparently the assistant has a different process than what they have. Well, no, Sherlock, no to Sherlock, but you know what I mean? I mean, that was their process. That was the process of her previous client. That was the
Yeah.
process of her previous company. And it's not going to be 100% the same as yours. So it's never plug and play. It will never be plug and play. So training will
Mm,
always be
Onboarding.
important.
It's called
yeah,
onboard. There's
Yep.
an
And it's
yeah,
not
initial.
and it's not a one day thing.
yeah. It's not a
No,
one day thing. I
it
think
is
one
not.
of the hmm, for most of our clients, I think one of the things as well that we do successfully is making sure that we let clients know that they need to onboard and that they need to spend time to teach. And I really appreciate our CSM as well and our clients being open to this. Our CSM has prepared,
A
what do you call
flow.
that? A template, yeah, a template, a flow for how they would onboard. And I think that that's been successful, and that would help your assistants, the ones that you hire to really thrive and be successful, especially like when you do onboarding and training properly. Because again, they're there for the long haul. They're not just there as like a plaster solution to your problem.
Yeah. I would add that as you hire for higher level positions, and I'm not going to use the term VA,
Mm,
when you're hiring a position, a customer success manager, a data analyst, an outbound salesperson, it's much more important to realize, or it's extremely important to realize that there's going to be more of a ramp up period than
mm,
Mm-hmm.
you're hiring for, you know, a very, I don't want to say mundane, but like, you know, a
Routine
position
role.
routine, like it's a routine role, everything the same, it's following directions and doing that project or whatever to completion.
mm,
So when we have clients that come in and they have much more complex requirements, it's important that we tell them that your ramp up period is going to be different than hiring a VA that's putting numbers in an Excel sheet all day.
mm.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want a thinker, you gotta pay up with the time involved. You have to invest time. You have to invest in getting to know the candidate. And
Mm,
one thing that really works, and I'm thankful for in our process, is we do setting of expectations. Because most of these clients would come in and would ask for a hire or an assistant, let's say, for example, and they expect that the very person they hire, the very first one that they agree to hire, would be that person for them. But that's not going to happen. I mean, we have to treat remote hiring the same way as we do on-site hiring. When you do on-site hiring, you don't hire them and leave them there. You do the
mm,
onboarding, you have them shadow you, you have them meet the other members of the team. And then sometimes it doesn't work out because you will only know their true potential and their highest level until you work with them. So it's a
Mm-mm.
process, it's a continuous process, which is why we're here, to make their lives easier. If you're hiring on your own, and then most of these clients, for example, they realize it's not a good fit, but they're so afraid to go through that process again, they're going to stick it with that hire, but they're not getting the best or the most of what they're paying, you know, or what they're expecting. So I think one of the best values that we provide is we offer the help to guide them until they actually find the right fit. You know, we've
Mhm.
had this, one of my favorite client stories here at Delegate would be one of our clients who hired for her executive assistant, and we found her a very, very good candidate for her first match. And then unfortunately, that candidate experienced a loss in the family, so he had to step back. So we proceeded with giving her another hire. And we were very much involved and invested in that training process, wherein when she did the next hire, she was no longer very hands on because we were integrated in the training process. So we took over,
Mm-mm.
meaning she didn't even spend time training that second person. And as soon as that second person graduated from training, and he was really good too, when they were working together, the vibe just wasn't vibing. Sometimes hiring an
Full fit.
assistant, especially an executive assistant, is just like looking for your soulmate.
Mhm.
You're gonna have to work with this person. Sometimes you're gonna be spending more time with your executive assistant than your family if you're really a busy business owner. So the vibe has to be there. And then when it came to the vibe check, they weren't vibing. And she was very candid. She said that it's nothing about the skill set. He's good. It's just that we don't vibe. And I'm not comfortable. It's not going to be seamless when we're gonna be talking 8 hours per day or whatnot. I need someone who I can vibe with. So we had to let go of that assistant and reprofile that person to another client who actually met his vibe check.
Right.
And then what I
That
loved
person
about it was,
worked very well with that person worked very well
Mhm,
with
Mhm.
hire, but it's about matchmaking in many ways, finding the
Mhm.
right match.
mhm,
Yeah.
yep. And what I loved about that was she was very open and she was very understanding because we had set that expectation in the onset of this process. We were able to let her know that, letting go of a hire doesn't mean it's a failure. It doesn't mean it will never work out for you. It's just that it's a process, and we have to trust the process. Sometimes
Mhm.
I keep hearing that and I really don't want to use that, but it's true. You have to trust the process. And on the third hire, it was just a match made in heaven, and now they're hitting a year together. And she's just one of the best clients that we've had as well. So it's a matter of understanding, setting of expectations, helping them with their training. And with those two hires, after the first one, we were the ones who trained the assistant,
Wow.
so she didn't even have to spend time doing it again. So I think
Mhm.
that's just so good, and I love it for our clients. I love that we're able to help them in all aspects.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
Definitely. Okay, so we're in the last interview round, right?
mm,
We've finally found a few candidates that fit the bill that we've lined up for a potential client. What does it look like after that, Vinny?
So after like you've done the onboarding and then the training, then basically once everything checks out, then we do the normally everyone calls it like the job offer. Then you offer them the role and then you can, have a happy life with your assistant. And that's a long process, but recruitment is it's not a one day thing. You can never expect to hire like the best candidates in just a day or 2 days or 3 days.
100%. And I think for those watching, one of the biggest takeaways I want you to have in having this conversation with Vinny and Jan, it's that proper recruitment takes time. It's
it
Mhm.
time.
does.
It does.
And one of the biggest mistakes I made when I first started recruiting out of the Philippines is I would maybe interview two or three people, but those were the first two or three people that like showed up in
Applied.
my inbox.
Yeah.
And most people, they hire strictly on vibes and
Mm-hmm.
quote unquote chemistry. And what they don't realize then is like, you're only accounting for a small fraction of what may make a relationship great.
Mm-hmm.
If for a business owner that doesn't have the time or doesn't have the skill set, that's where a service like ours really comes in and helps. And
Yeah.
all in all, I think that we do a very good job of matching the best talent with business owners in the United States and the West, because our team knows how to do it. They've been doing it for the last 10 years. They've been doing it since
More than
Jan
10
was,
years.
but
6
Since
years.
I was 6.
they've been doing it since Jan was 6 years old. And they've been
Because
doing
I'm 16.
and in Vinny's case, he's been doing it since the late 1800s. So
Uh-huh.
Well, that's true.
But I think the biggest understatement, like recruitment, it's not just interviewing, it's not just hiring. What we do at Delegate, it's not just finding the right match and then introducing them to you. It's not just filtering for all these people. I think the bigger picture that we have to zoom out to so that people would really see what the value is, when you go with Delegate, because some of these clients or some of these potential clients, they would think, okay, you're going to recruit for me, you're going to find the right match. But it's not that, because number one, recruiting is a part of it. And recruiting is a very, very big part of it. And it's a very lengthy part of it and a lengthy process. It's very intricate, it's an art. But then you have onboarding and training. You know,
Mm,
if you integrate, if you let us plug ourselves into your process and into your training and into your systems, then that would help your turnover, because this is not a forever thing. No hire is going to be with you forever,
mm,
or your first hire isn't going to be your forever hire or the match made in heaven. So if you let us plug ourselves into your process, then we can help you with that, because it's a nightmare to train another person over and over again. So
it costs
if
money as
we're,
well.
yeah, and if we're here, then let us take that out for you. Let us take that off your plate. And after that would be the managing part of it, wherein sometimes it's just like dating. How I wish that we have a managed service in dating. Oh, you call that therapy? But it's just like dating. When you're dating, for example, and you're in your in the early stages of your relationship, and sometimes it gets awkward to, call out these pet peeves or these things that you don't like, or if I want my boyfriend to do better, for example, sometimes it's just hard to call him out and just say, hey, do better. But because we're here, we can do that for you. And we can talk with you and your assistant on how to make your relationship better as partners. And the best part is usually CSMs or client success managers or customer support managers. But for us, it's really a partnership thing. Basically, it's a
Mm.
partnership success manager. We just don't call them PSM because it doesn't sound nice. But they're really PSMs because they work with both the assistants and the clients.
yeah.
So I think that's what sets us apart. And I don't know, do you have more questions? Because if not, I'll just go on. I'll just
I think that the main takeaway here is the partnership aspect of it. That
Mm,
true.
you have our recruitment side of it, but then really it's the partnership management that
mm,
helps a business owner keep that relationship 100%. I have heard stories from clients where their main takeaway in hiring from us is not only has the assistant helped their business and whatnot, streamlining operations, communications, but the partnership has helped them become a better manager as we are that liaison. So there's a lot of value that folks are getting from our company day in and day out. And you guys are at the helm of that each day. We could not do it without you. That is for sure.
And might I say, we do it while looking like this. So
Yes,
I know, looking
you
fabulous.
look amazing. I love the lighting, by the way. I just realized. I mean, I look
Um,
younger than I than I am.
than
we
being
should
born in the
do all our
1800s.
now. Looking ahead, what are some of the things you guys are excited about for the rest of the year besides these storms passing and you guys getting back electricity? I mean, obviously
Looking
Thanksgiving.
ahead,
You got
yeah, and
Christmas.
Mm,
Christmas.
Yeah, yeah.
Christmas, Thanksgiving, gifts, no. But I'm super excited for me, especially for the past few months. I'm just so happy to have seen, our efforts and what we do. It's being seen. We are seen, and that is what is important. And why do I say that? Why do I say that we are seen? Because we've grown our partnerships to increase, and we've partnered with a lot of companies that are actually aligned with number one, not just our ICP, but with our vision. And we've grown into a lot of partnerships that actually have the same vision as us. So,
mm,
I mean, that's one thing that we do, because if you remember our mission and vision statement and our company values, it says there we foster relationships beyond just the business. So it's fulfilling to find the same kinds of people and to be able to partner with people who believe in the same things as us.
mm,
And that has happened this year. And I feel like that's just great. And I can't wait for more of these partners to come next year. And
Yeah.
another thing that proves and that makes me feel that we are seen is the just exorbitant growth in referrals. I just feel that when somebody refers you, it's because you've provided something for them, you've done something
mm,
for them, and they believe in you. So
Yeah.
I think that's the
mm,
biggest and most humbling marketing aspect that we don't even do, because what we do for them is what we do for them. We don't expect anything in return. And now seeing all these referrals come in, it actually made us step back on doing our marketing, because we don't have to market ourselves because other people are talking about us in rooms that we aren't even in. And
I
mm,
love.
that speaks volumes,
And
that's
going a step further to that is also the referrals on the VA side, which is
mhm.
always great. When
oh,
people actually refer their friends that they have maybe worked with in the past. That's also
mm,
very gratifying.
And that's a testament to how good the VAs are as well. Like, if they're not good, these clients wouldn't refer, these clients wouldn't expand. So
mm,
that's also a testament of how good they've been doing their job. And I'm just so happy because I'm a data person. I'm a person who thrives with numbers. And in the industry standard for attrition would be 60% annually,
mm,
and looking at our numbers, we're just a little bit over 30. And that is an
Yeah,
industry standard. I mean,
yeah.
I don't make up these numbers. That's an industry standard. And I've experienced that in the past. And it's always either plus or minus 10, but it's never this low.
mm,
And that's why I keep saying whatever we're doing it correctly.
mm,
And we just have to nurture whatever it is that we're doing. And I fully believe that because we're doing it with the heart, because we hired people that are passionate about what they do, because we don't have to move fast. We don't have to move fast. We can, but moving slowly and doing things correctly, I feel like that has paved the way for so many things for us, because we grew organically. We grew without asking, without spending, and
mm,
they just came. So I think I'm so excited for 2026 for us to be super tired. So I'm so thankful. I mean, silver lining, at least we're tired,
mm.
but we're growing. So, I mean, yeah. How about you,
So
Vin?
right
Well,
Are
now
you
we're really
excited?
tired. Right now we're really tired, and then next year we will be super tired.
Uh-huh. And we got it.
love one. We love what we do.
Hmm,
We
that's
love
true.
the and the value that we put out there in the world. Personally, I've said this before, like one of the things that's so rewarding about this, starting this company and growing it is opportunity. At the end of the day, like I think that there are ways to give back into the world, but I think teaching someone to fish or giving them an opportunity that they otherwise may not have had, I think that is the most rewarding thing for me. And as we grow, it's like, you're touching more and more lives on the client side and the VA side. And so for 2026, that's the thing I'm really looking forward to, is putting the foot on the gas pedal and touching more lives and, building a great business while doing it.
Yep,
Yeah.
definitely.
All right, guys.
Let's go.
Let's get back to work. We got a lot of work to do. The point of this podcast was to give you guys a little flavor of our processes and our exec team. Thank you for joining us, and
Thank
we'll
you for
see you
having
next.
us.
Yeah,
Giving them a glimpse of how we wiggle ourselves into their processes. I mean, we will dip our toes in your process, whether you like it or not. So if you want a little bit of that, and maybe Blendy, if they did enjoy this podcast, maybe we do a night version where we really sip and scale.
thank you so much. Always a
Just
Thank
fun
pleasure.
you.
doing this. Bye, Blendy. Bye,
Bye.
Vinny.
Guys,
Bye.
see you later.